people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Carl Jung. You are tired, and not in the way that sleep can fix. You wake up weary. You carry the weight of exhaustion in your bones, even after rest. You move through the day as if you're underwater. You try harder. Drink more coffee. Slow down. Speed up. Meditate. Disconnect, but nothing reaches that deep inner fatigue. Why? What is it that's really draining you? Pause for a moment and reflect. What kind of tiredness do you carry? Emotional, mental, soul deep. Leave a comment, because you are not alone in this experience, though it often feels like you are carrying it in silence. Let me speak to you, not from the surface, but from the depths, because the reason you're tired is not just physical, it is psychological, it is spiritual. It is the silent toll of being disconnected from who you really are. You're not just tired, you are soul exhausted from living in a way that's not aligned with your truth. There is a kind of fatigue that comes not from doing too much, but from doing too little of what matters, from ignoring your soul's cries, from wearing masks, from living someone else's script, from silencing your inner voice day after day until you no longer recognize the sound of it. That's the real reason you're tired. You are not tired because of your schedule. You are tired because of your self-abandonment. When you consistently live in contradiction to your inner values, your psyche begins to rebel. It does not shout, it whispers, in fatigue, in apathy, in the slow erosion of joy. And in those whispers is a message: you are not where you are meant to be. You are playing a role that no longer fits. You are trying to survive in an environment that is starving your soul. This is what I called the falsification of type. When you force yourself to live according to what others expect, rather than the true direction of your personality, you fracture your energy. It becomes disjointed, conflicted, exhausted, and most people are doing this without even knowing it. We are taught from a young age to adapt, to be good, to be responsible, to achieve. But rarely are we taught how to be real. We learn to betray our feelings in favor of fitting in. We learn to suppress our instincts to avoid judgment. We learn to hide our dreams to avoid disappointment. And in doing so, we create a split between who we are and who we believe we have to be. This split is the source of your exhaustion. You are tired because every day you are carrying two selves, the real one and the one the world wants to see. And the further apart they are, the heavier the burden becomes. Imagine the energy it takes to constantly monitor yourself, censor your truth, suppress your emotions, and act like everything is fine. That is the energy drain. That is why you are tired. Not because of life itself, but because of the disconnection from your own soul. The psyche, when divided, cannot sustain its vitality. This disconnection shows up in many ways. You procrastinate on the things that matter. You feel uninspired, even when nothing is technically wrong. You feel like you're always doing, but nothing really moves forward. You're surrounded by people, but you feel alone. You look at your life and see success, but you feel hollow. This is not depression in the clinical sense. This is spiritual depletion. This is the cost of unlived potential. This is the pain of being a stranger to yourself. Many come to me asking for meaning, thinking it's something they can find or achieve. But meaning is not a destination. It is a byproduct of alignment. When you live in alignment with your inner nature, meaning emerges. When you live in contradiction to it, meaning disappears, and in its place comes exhaustion. And so, the question is not how to get more energy, but how to stop leaking it. Where are you leaking your energy? In conversations that are dishonest, in obligations that betray your truth, in careers that drain your essence, in relationships where you cannot be fully seen. This is what I call the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche that holds everything we deny, repress, or disown. When we live in ways that avoid the shadow, we are constantly at war with ourselves. That war burns fuel every hour, every day. You are tired because you are battling yourself without realizing it. You say yes when your soul is screaming no. You smile when your heart is grieving. You hustle when your spirit is begging you to slow down. You perform when all you want is to be held. And all of this is happening beneath the surface, in the unconscious. That is why rest doesn't help. Because it's not your body that needs rest. It's your soul that needs reconciliation. You need to make peace with yourself. You need to listen to what you've been avoiding. You need to stop running from your own depth. But people fear this. Because to face the shadow is to risk seeing truths we've tried to escape. It means admitting that the life we've built may not be our own. It means facing the grief of how much we've lost by trying to be what we were never meant to be. But that grief is sacred. It is the threshold to healing. When you begin to feel the tiredness, not as a weakness, but as a message, everything begins to shift. You stop judging yourself. You start listening. You start asking different questions. Not, how can I do more, but what part of me have I abandoned? Not, how can I fix this, but what needs to be felt? Not, what's wrong with me, but where have I been untrue to myself? This is the beginning of real transformation. Not surface-level change, but root-level healing. You begin to retrieve the parts of yourself you left behind. The part that dreamed. The part that spoke boldly. The part that loved deeply. The part that didn't yet wear armor. And yes, the part that was wounded. The part that was told it was too much, too sensitive, too different. You begin to bring those parts back into your awareness, not to shame them, but to integrate them. Integration is the true rest your soul is seeking, not escape, not detachment, not withdrawal, but wholeness. When your inner world becomes coherent, when the divided selves are brought together, you begin to experience energy not as effort, but as flow. You stop forcing yourself through the day. You start being moved by something deeper. You no longer wake up tired because you are no longer fighting yourself. And that is the essence of healing self-reunion, not becoming someone else, not fixing what is broken, but returning to who you were before the world convinced you to be someone else. You may have believed that being tired was simply the cost of adulthood, that exhaustion is the natural state of modern life, that to feel chronically drained is to be doing it right. After all, the world praises hustle. It rewards burnout. It claps for the person who sacrifices everything for productivity. But what if this model is not success? It's soul depletion, masked as ambition. You were not born to live in a permanent state of fatigue. Your natural state is not burnout. Your natural state is aliveness. But aliveness cannot exist where the self is exiled. Aliveness emerges from congruence when your outer life begins to reflect your inner truth. So ask yourself now, where am I betraying my inner truth to maintain external control? What parts of myself have I silenced to avoid rejection, conflict, or discomfort? Where have I said yes? Not because it's aligned, but because it's expected. The psyche is intelligent. It is alive. When you abandon parts of it to maintain appearances, it will not remain silent. It will cry out not in words, but in symptoms, in fatigue, in disconnection, in persistent discontent, in a deep sense that something is wrong, even if everything looks right. This is not dysfunction. This is the soul resisting misalignment. The person who is tired for no reason is often the one who has been performing instead of living someone else's version of a good life, carrying burdens that do not belong to them, ignoring the quiet pull of their own intuition because it doesn't make sense to others. That quiet pull that is the voice of the self. It does not shout. It does not demand. It calls again and again with patience, even when you don't listen. It calls you back to your essence. The self is not interested in your productivity. It is not concerned with your image. It is not impressed by your ability to suppress pain and keep smiling. It only wants what is real. And when your life becomes too false, too rigid, too performative, the self will begin to withdraw its energy. That's when the tiredness comes. That's when you feel as though you're moving through life with the brakes on, because something inside you has stopped participating in the lie. So many people live in quiet resignation. They do what they think they're supposed to do, be who they think they're supposed to be, and suppress the nagging sense that this isn't it. And over time, this suppression hardens into fatigue, not just of the body, but of the spirit. This is why the solution is not more effort. It is more honesty. What if your exhaustion is not a weakness but a compass? What if it's pointing you toward what you've outgrown? What if it's not your fault that you're tired, but your responsibility to understand what the tiredness is asking of you? Every symptom is a message. And fatigue, when not caused by physical illness, is often the soul's message that something essential is missing. Meaning, when your life lacks meaning, your soul goes dormant. You can go through the motions. You can perform. You can achieve, but it will all feel hollow. And hollow living is exhausting. Meaning is not found in doing more. It is found in doing what aligns with who you are. You do not need to change your whole life overnight. You need to begin listening to what brings you quiet joy, to what makes you feel alive, even briefly, to the moments where time disappears, to the subtle longings that won't leave you alone. These are your soul's language, the whisper of meaning. Reconnecting to meaning begins with small acts of truth. Speaking what you've kept silent, creating something you've been afraid to try, saying no to what drains you, saying yes to what nourishes you, spending time with people who see you not just the version of you that's useful or agreeable, but the real you. It means allowing yourself to be changed, because awakening to your truth will inevitably undo parts of your life that were built on falsehood. And that undoing can feel like unraveling, but the unraveling is necessary. It clears space for what's real. You do not lose yourself in this process. You finally meet yourself. And as you begin to align, the tiredness begins to shift. Maybe not all at once, maybe slowly, maybe so subtly that you don't notice at first. But then one day, you laugh and mean it. You rest and feel restored. You speak and feel heard. You wake up and feel present because you're no longer carrying the weight of the unlived life. You're living it. This is what I meant when I said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. You were not born to be a replica of expectations. You were not born to wear a mask. You were not born to keep peace by destroying your own. You were born to bring the self into the world. But first, you must reclaim it. Reclaim the joy that was labeled childish. Reclaim the voice that was silenced. Reclaim the emotions that were shamed. Reclaim the intuition you were taught to ignore. Reclaim the dreams you buried to be responsible. Because every piece you reclaim returns energy to your system. And this return of energy is the antidote to your tiredness. Not external fuel, not stimulation, but wholeness. Wholeness is rest. Wholeness is peace. Wholeness is vitality. And it begins now. Not when you've figured it all out. Not when others approve. Not when your life looks different. It begins when you choose to stop betraying yourself. Even in small ways, it begins with truth. Truth to yourself. Truth that says, I'm tired not because I'm broken, but because I've been living out of alignment, and I am ready to return. This return is your healing. This return is your power. This return is your peace. The fatigue you feel is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that your soul is alive enough to protest, that it has not given up on you, that somewhere inside, you still believe in something more. Let that belief guide you home, to yourself, to your energy, to your real life waiting, not out there, but within. You're tired, yes, but now you know the reason, and now you know the way back. Follow it.